It's finally game week, and the Auburn Tigers have one of, if not their most important game in the last 5 years this Friday.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining us, as he does quite regularly, that is Brian Smith, host of The Portal. That's Locked On's recruiting, NIL, transfer portal show. Be sure to give him some love. Multiple episodes a day there. What's the biggest mismatch for Auburn and Baylor? What does Auburn need to do to win on Friday? But Brian, well, let's start with, there are historic implications here. I mean, when you talk about how massive of a game that this is for Auburn, and Baylor's jazzed up about it too, but I think it's pretty agreed upon on both sides. Like, this is a bigger win or potential game for Auburn, just because of what's led to this point over the last few years under the Hugh Freeze era of Auburn football. And a win will be big, but mainly just because a loss could be devastating on Friday. It's finally here, Brian, and you're starting to feel the pressure, the excitement, and the energy throughout the Plains before the Tigers head to Waco on Friday.
Yeah, this is year 3, and you've completely revamped the roster. As they say, year 3 is kind of put up or shut up at any major college football program.
Yes.
So here we are. And I don't know, by the way, I don't know how they randomly ended up playing Baylor in a game out of conference, but I love it because I like it when teams actually could play somebody that's not a cupcake to open the season. But
Sure.
You got to make it happen too, because they got a better roster. They spent a ton of money on quarterbacks. They put a lot of money in their coaching staff. Like, you have to put up or shut up. And I think Baylor is a good football team. I love their quarterback. I like their star receiver and running back. They don't have the same players that Auburn does in the trenches, and I don't think their overall talent outside the numbers is going to match Auburn. It's good, but it's not anywhere near what Auburn's is.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk more about this a little bit when we get to the mismatch portion of this. But there's not a spot on the roster that's going to line up against Baylor's part of the roster that, goes against it. So, Auburn's receivers versus Baylor DBs, or whatever. I'm not talking about comparing the two quarterbacks, because I would say that Sawyer Robertson right now is a safer bet at quarterback than Jackson Arnold, but they're not playing against each other. They won't be on the field at the same time. And I just think when you look at the depth of roster on both sides of the ball at any position, I think the talent gap is way wider than a lot of people feel comfortable admitting here. Am I off on that? I mean, you cover, roster management and recruiting and the portal better than anybody. Like, am I off on this?
No, Baylor's done a good job in spots, and they've done a little better here lately, but those kids aren't ready to play. Some of them are committed or freshmen. It's going to take a while, and I don't know how much longer Dave Aranda is going to be there if this doesn't go well, especially since they might have an NFL quarterback. But again, like, if you look at the numbers, they were, 94th in rushing or passing defense, and like
total defense. Yeah.
Like, they're in the 80s and 90s in total defense, passing. Like, that's just not going to get it done. I'm sorry, there's Eric Singleton. Oh, I'm sorry, there's Cam Coleman. You're not going to jump that high.
Malcolm Simmons, Horatio Fields.
Yeah, like,
there's a lot to throw at you.
Unless Auburn just can't pass protect, like if they come up with some unique, and Aranda could do some stuff. He's a very good coach, but I'm just not buying that they have the athletes to get in the backfield and create enough havoc that those guys aren't going to get loose on a pretty consistent basis. And Auburn's got a nice allotment of running backs. They should be balanced on offense. And I don't think that Baylor will be able to keep up. I really don't.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what the balance looks like on offense, because when they had Jarquez Hunter last year, it almost seemed like they wanted to pass it more, but it's because of how defenses were lining up and playing Auburn. They wanted them to pass it. So it's like, don't give it to Jarquez Hunter. So if we put another guy in the box, you're gonna keep it on RPO situations. I don't know exactly how you want Auburn to attack you this year if you're an opposing defense. I almost think like I don't know. I think you're gonna have people that have different opinions of Jackson Arnold, and we don't really know exactly what Jackson Arnold was able to do yet in an Auburn system with better talent around him, and we'll learn Friday. And I think we're gonna know pretty quick. I've heard a lot of people say like, yeah, it's going to take a few weeks to see what you got. I kind of disagree. I think we're going to know if Jackson Arnold's ready to rock and roll or not fairly early on Friday.
My only concern about that is Aranda mixing his coverages like every snap. I think that's their one chance to win is getting him an inexperienced quarterback to turn it over, playing a lot of different zone coverages and changing after the snap. Other than that, I just don't think there's an answer because they'll play a lot of cloud coverage, a lot of cover 3, cover 4, try to keep Cam and Horatio and all those guys in front of them. But that makes it 2nd and 5 all day on RPOs, just handing off to Damari or whoever. I don't even know who the running back's
take 2nd and 5 over and over and over again. If you just got to throw a 5-yard toss out there every time, please.
That's what I mean.
And if Jackson can't do that, then we do have questions.
That's not questions. That's we need a new quarterback. Like it should be easy pickings underneath. It really should. If they want to come, and I'll be the first one to admit that I was wrong if the following happens. If Baylor comes out and not only plays man, but does well in it, I will be stunned. It's not going to happen.
There's not one metric that says like, oh yeah, Baylor can go out and run man and do well. There's not one metric that supports that.
That's what I mean. So
I've seen some Baylor, folks kind of talk about everything that they're bringing back. And we used to do this on the offensive line a ton at Auburn, where it's like, oh, these guys are all coming back. Or Auburn's got the same offensive line coming back. And it's like, well, they weren't great last year. Like, you can get better, but you're not going to like be a drastically different team if you were bad and then you bring all of the guys who perform poorly back. Like, that's not how you build in today's age of college football. And especially when you're not getting that, but like Aranda's been there a while. So I don't think you're going to get just this burst of, football IQ or production or development. Like, I don't think that's where Baylor is at their point of the Dave Aranda era. But once again, I could be wrong. I don't think I am here though.
Their key is to be able to grind it out against Auburn's defense. They've got a really good running back. And they got one really good receiver. Both of them are probably going to be NFL players. And Tory Robertson's legit. Is their offensive line, though, going to be able to help them consistently? Everybody gets like one drive that's 12 or 14 plays for a TD in a game. Can they do 3 or 4 of those? Or they keep the only way they're winning is if Cam Coleman is as active in that game as I'm going to be. In other words, just standing on the sidelines. They can't cover him. They don't have anybody to cover him. And that changes every single play call.
Just say it again real quick, Brian.
They can't cover Cam Coleman. They don't have anybody to cover him. So that's going to make it very difficult for the coordinator. Are you dropping the safety in the box? Because Cam ran by SEC secondaries. And I know Eric Singleton, he just torched everybody pretty much. And that's not even the end of it. Like you said, Malcolm Simmons, et cetera. He's going to have single coverage on every snap this year.
Yes.
Malcolm Simmons is shot out of a cannon. So where are they borrowing some players for this game in the secondary? I doubt it. So unless their offense, there's some crazy transfer rules, but you don't get that one.
No, you're right. You can't borrow players. That's correct. Yeah. You can transfer. You can't borrow players.
I don't want to scare Auburn fans, but the only way they lose is if Auburn shoots itself in the foot.
Yeah. And I do think there are some questions to ask about that. Like, so what does Auburn need to do? Auburn needs to not beat itself like it did several times a year ago. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. And unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That is Locked On College for your code for 15% off today. That's at Rugiet, RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not under FDA approval and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Today's show, hanging out with the Brian Smith of The Portal. Go make The Portal your second listen today and all football season long. The biggest thing going in to Auburn versus Baylor from the Auburn side of things is don't take yourself out of the game. No silly turnovers, no mishaps on special teams, and don't overthink it from the coaching perspective. I've said all offseason long, Brian, that from a roster standpoint, Auburn should be able to go into Waco and take down the Baylor Bears. My one concern, my largest concern, I guess there are a few smaller ones, but the largest one has been, can Hugh Freeze's scheme be digestible for the guys on offense and then be executed on a game day consistently? We saw moments of it, especially towards the end of last season, where it's like, oh, there you go. Texas A&M. They looked great there. And then, there have been certain moments where it's like, okay, cool, this is what it looks like, but it wasn't consistent for an entire 60 minutes. Can we do that? Can Auburn go out and do that with Jackson Arnold running the helm? Because the blame has been thrown to Peyton Thorne. And hey, that might be proven correct on Friday. It might be. And, Auburn fans need to hope that that's the case. But what does Auburn need to do? They need to not take themselves out of the football game.
This should be a rather conservative game plan offensively because they should be able to run the ball, like I said, down their throat, because I think they're going to play very off coverage. And if Jackson Arnold can't win with 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 most of the day, then as you noted in the first segment of this show, there's different questions to ask. And quite honestly, there's questions about when Deuces ended up being the starter. And I just don't think that's going to be the case. So they should be able to run RPO and have a lot of stuff underneath, tight ends, slant screens, because teams are going to play cloud coverage, man.
Right.
And then the stuff about the penalties and the dropping the ball and stuff, that's just on players executing.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, again, this is year 3. Your talent level has changed so much. I don't think that should be a big deal. This is for any team, not Auburn. My one big concern for any first game of the season, or even at the NFL level, it's the punt team. Like, the ball cannot go over the punter's head. The punter cannot drop like this. Those plays change the momentum of games beyond the scoreboard. Like, it's just, it show-box teams. And Baylor's got their crowd. They got some nutty people. It'll be loud. They get backed up. Can't have the punter getting it blocked in the end.
45,000 entire people will be there.
Yeah, they'll be loud. They'll be drunk. They'll be having fun. But if you're going to be able to get out of the first half with the lead, you just don't turn it over. Your talent will eventually create the talent gap that we talk. And I'm not trying to pick on Baylor. They've got some good players. They do not have the depth that Auburn does.
They don't have the depth, and the defense is just not there. And I think their offense is good. I think their offense down the stretch against, the lower tier teams of the Big 12, they took advantage of them. They took advantage of them. And look, they scored 31 against, LSU. Like, they're not a bad offense. I do think the strength of Auburn's team, though, is their defense and those DBs. And I just don't think, physically, like, we've talked about that from receivers. Like, you can't simulate Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, and Malcolm Simmons in practice. You also can't manufacture in the practice field a Jay Crawford or a Kayan Lee or a Caleb Harris or a Keldrick Falk. Like, you can't, if you don't have those guys on your roster, you can't do that. And Baylor doesn't have those guys on their roster. And you mentioned those stats down the stretch, or last year for Baylor, but down the stretch when they kind of finished the season on a roll, they played at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, TCU, West Virginia, Houston, and Kansas. Those teams weren't good. And they still allowed points. 35 to Tech, 28 to OK State, 34 to TCU, 35 to West Virginia. 10 to Houston, 17 to Kansas. Like this is still a team that's like they've allowed points to everyone. And so if Auburn can go in there and just win their individual battles, this game should be fine, Brian.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't. I'll say this, you never want to lose a turnover battle, but if Auburn loses the turnover battle 2-1 or 1-0, they'll still win. They have that much more talent. Usually you lose a turnover battle on the road against a team that, like, again, Sawyer Robertson's legit.
Yeah.
I would take him in this quarterback battle because he's experienced. I will still take Auburn because I think outside the numbers, DB, receiver, overall, they're better. You could argue who the best receiver is in the game. I forget the kid's name for Baylor, but he's really good. Like, he'll probably play in the NFL. Their running back is really good. He'll probably play in the NFL. They still don't have the same depth. And then in the trenches, they do not have Keldrick Ball. They don't have anyone.
And like there is questions, and I don't know how much of this. I think there could be several different factors, but like leaving the most recent scrimmage, talking to a few folks, it sounds like Auburn's defensive line really just handled Auburn's offensive line. And the defensive side of it consistently won the one-on-one matchups. And Hugh Freeze talked about that the last time he was, spoke to the media. And so I do wonder how much of that is scheme, how much of that is Keldrick Falk and Kieron Crawford and Amaris Williams and, all of Malik Block and all of these guys that are just winning one-on-one battles. And it's like, well, you're not going to play many teams that have that up front. Baylor certainly doesn't have that up front. Like, how much of it is that, and how much of it is just like the O-line is lagging behind a little bit? Like, you can make an argument in several different directions if you wanted to.
I'm sure part of it is the defense. Like, again, I think Auburn's offensive line is pretty good, but do they have a player on Falk's level? Connor Lew's really good, but I would still take Falk, and they don't go against each other.
Yeah, they don't block. Yeah, right. He's not blocking him. Right.
So I would imagine the O-line's just getting good reps because they're playing against an SEC front. The bigger question, though, like, how does Baylor remotely try to emulate that in practice with Falk? He's 6'5", 6'6".
How many Keldrick Falks are there in college football, Brian?
2 to 4, maybe.
Yeah,
none of them
they'll all be first half of the first round draft picks.
Right. Yeah. There's a couple at Clemson, a couple at Bama, Auburn, LSU, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State. The schools. I mean, it's straightforward. They're not a Baylor. So I need to see Baylor have somebody come up and surprise. Maybe they will. I mean, college football is wild. But unless they have a heroic performance out of somebody in their front seven or whatever, where they can display conservative coverage, and I mean conservative, and they can still slow down Auburn's running game to the point they're averaging 3 yards a carry. Again, the only way Auburn loses this game is turning it over / shooting themselves in the foot, missing field goals, stuff like that. I doubt it. So let me ask you this. Which position do you feel the least likely about in terms of how would Auburn lose this game? Is there a position they could lose this game or if it goes sideways?
Let me stall for a second. Which position am I most concerned about? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. August 26th, so I guess that's tomorrow, and most of you guys will be tuning in, is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, Drake May, or eyeing a long shot division winner, Pats over the Bills for the AFC East, or if you want to crown your own Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. I've stalled long enough. Which position group am I most concerned about going into Friday night's opener against the Baylor Bears? Going into fall camp, there were a few positions. Running back was on there. Linebacker was on there. Defensive line from a depth perspective was on there. It's not any of those. I feel fine about linebacker. I feel fine about defensive line. I feel fine about running back. At this point, it's the quarterback position. The quarterback position is the one I'm most concerned with. Not that I'm concerned or panicked, but to answer your question, like you've said it. How is Auburn going to lose this game against Baylor? It'd be from turnovers. And a lot of the times that involves the quarterback. I'm not predicting Jackson Arnold to be that, but if I had to pick, like, okay, if Auburn loses this game, to answer your question, it'd be because of quarterback play would be my prediction.
That's exactly where I'm at too. First game of the season, you're working with new players, you're a transfer, and for the record, for anybody that's not familiar with Baylor, their defense is not quote unquote traditional. It is annoying because they're going to run 3-man fronts.
Sure.
They're going to do some different things. It's a little harder to prepare for. That's a fact. But you've had all freaking offseason for it too. So I don't want to hear that excuse. Even if they win, Jackson Arnold cannot look subpar. You know what I mean? He has to. They got to find a way to
lose the game. You don't have to win it if you're Jackson Arnold. Just don't lose it. You can get better and grow within the scheme over the next few weeks because you're going to play 2 manageable opponents before you go on the road to take on your former team a few weeks later. Just don't lose it. Figure out ways to get the check downs, throw the ball up to Cam Coleman, like to help bail you out on 50-50 balls. That's one of the things that I was questioning down the stretch last year, like when Auburn scored 7 points against Vanderbilt. And I'm like, we can't just throw it up to Cam Coleman a few times. Like, we can't just try that. And then we started to do that a little bit. And it was like, oh, and like ULM was the first one. I think he was thrown to 8 times. He caught it 8 times. He had an incredible game. You saw it in the Iron Bowl. And it's like, why don't we just do that? Like, so, and that's the part of that's part of it where, like, with Hugh Freeze, it's like, okay, you get guys like Cam Coleman who could do stuff that other people can't do, where it's just like, throw it up to them. Like that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm excited to see, where like, if there are moments where the offense is sputtering, can you get it to one of your playmakers to kind of get that momentum back? I don't think we really did that last year.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to go with the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Cam Coleman, run the ball. Is Damari going to start? Do we know?
I think so. Hugh Freeze last week was asked about the overall picture of the running back room, and he said Damari is the most complete back without skipping a beat. So that tells me he's RB1.
Okay,
that's my interpretation of that.
He's a senior that they trust, can probably handle pass pro. That's the biggest thing.
He's gained some weight too. Like, he's become more of a bruiser than I expected him to be, which is, I think, good.
Well, then, again, I'm just going to say it for about the 10th time in this pod. 2nd and 5 is just fine. They're not going to beat Auburn if it's that scenario over and over. It'll be the Kentucky game all over again.
That'd be great.
Like from last year.
That'd be great.
So you need to make them have to change their game plan, both offensively and defensively, if they're going to play the coverage, I think, and playing off. And then eventually they got to start taking chances with blitzes.
What do you think?
Or Singleton or whatever. Good luck.
What do you think is the most lopsided matchup in this game, and who does it benefit?
Anybody that's guarding Cam down the field, one-on-one. I mean,
okay. You're saying Auburn's receivers versus Baylor's DBs. That's what Cam Stewart of Locked On Baylor said last week when we did our crossover. He's like, that's gonna be favoring Auburn for sure.
They don't have anybody to guard him, and neither does Ohio State or Notre Dame. And they've got all their DBs are going to the NFL. What's Baylor going to do? I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, I study everybody at the top, and there's no corner in college football. I wouldn't want Caleb Downs again.
How many receivers in college football are better than Cam Coleman?
One. We all know who it is.
In Columbus?
So that would be correct.
He's in Columbus, Ohio?
That's it.
You have him over Ryan Williams?
I would take him over Ryan because he's more complete. Ryan's the most explosive. He's ridiculous fast.
Right.
But Cam's better in the blocking, and he's better in one-on-one 50-50s. But it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. If you wanted to pick Ryan, you could talk me into it. But I'll take the bigger guy because he's probably less likely to succumb to injury too.
Good point. Yeah, for a good chunk of the offseason, I've talked about the trench play benefiting Auburn. And even with some of the reports and chatter about the O-line struggling in one-on-one situations, Freeze added that they haven't really worked on like stuff to help, like scheme-wise to help with the one-on-one situation. So like, chip blocking or leaving a tight end in or whatever. Like they haven't really worked on that yet. I think that's just going to work itself out. I don't know. Maybe I'm ignorant to that. Maybe I'm, I just think when you look at Auburn's O-line versus Baylor's D-line and then Auburn's D-line versus Baylor's O-line, I still think that is something that tremendously points Auburn's way.
I don't have any problem with that statement.
Okay.
Does Baylor even have, and I'm not sitting here saying I'm an expert on Baylor, but do they have a straight up first 3 rounds offensive or defensive lineman? Because if they don't, how do they win?
It's hard to see like 3-round stuff, but I mean, I look at mock drafts all the time and I don't see Baylor there.
Okay. So,
but you know who I do see? As I see Xavier Chaplin, I see Connor Liu, I see Eric Singleton, I see Keldrick Falk. And you would see Cam Coleman on there if he was draft eligible. You would see Jay Crawford on there if he was draft eligible. You'd probably see DeMarcus Riddick on there if he was draft eligible. Like just the talent differential is it's crazy. It's crazy.
Zach,
it's just the coaching. It's coaching and quarterback play. That's what it comes down to.
Zach, you're setting yourself up for me to come on the show next week and yell by saying that. But if they don't win by 2 touchdowns, you should yell on your podcast after the show.
Oh, I'm just taking a win. They can win by 1. I don't care.
That's the Auburn fan in you right there that's been beaten to death.
Well, you've got to learn how to win close games before you can blow people out.
If you can't blow people out with this group of receivers, it's not going to get anywhere.
Oh, Brian, that is going to be a thing. That's going to be everywhere. Maybe not. We'll see.
No, you should blow them out, man.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope it happens. Brian Smith, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Locked On the Portal, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, YouTube, wherever you get your pods, talking about recruiting, transfer portal, and all the matchups around college football. I even did a live show yesterday after the Kansas State-Iowa State game.
Yeah, that was such a week 0 game. Like, it had everything.
Raining, sideways,
it was kind of ugly, rainy, but like it had everything. Turnovers, 4th down stops, goal line stands. Yeah, it was a good game. Definitely feels like college football is back for sure. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.